to my channel. I'm very pleased because I've just finished my fox scarf. It's all my knitted fox scarf. It's the first scarf I've ever made, and I'm really very pleased. I hope you can see that. But really very pleased with it. It's my fox scarf, little button eyes. Very pleased with it, so I just wanted to show that. Yeah, very pleased with that scarf. It's the very first scarf I've ever made. Very pleased with it. Yeah, you know, this is just a very quick video, really. I don't actually know. I just wanted to do a video really just to show you my fox scarf, which I've made, really more than anything. But it's just in connection to the other video when I was talking about people sort of watering down autism and stuff. I just wanted to draw your attention to a new hashtag I came across, and it's all thanks to someone called Bipolar Courage. Bipolar Courage, I follow Bipolar Courage on Twitter, and also she's got a YouTube channel as well. I think she's based in New Zealand, and obviously she's got bipolar, hence why it's called Bipolar Courage, and she's got an autistic son who diagnosed Asperger's in childhood, I think. He's now like grown up. And yeah, she's very, like me, she's very against the neurodiversity movement and everything, and it's watering down of autism and all this identity politics stuff, and you know, diagnosis is sort of the way people kind of like treat diagnosis as somehow some kind of like affirmation or identity, as opposed to like a serious sort of thing, you know, a serious condition. But she's been talking a lot recently about nautism, which is kind of like a pun on the word autism. I don't know if it's Bipolar Courage who coined the term. She might have borrowed it from someone else, I'm not sure. It doesn't actually matter. But I just thought I'd reference Bipolar Courage because if you're interested, she's another person who's talks a lot against the neurodiversity movements. If you're anti-NDM, she's another person to follow. And yeah, so she talks a lot about something called nautism, which is just a pun on the word autism, but it's like not autism. So it's like nautism, like zero autism, you know, like nautism. It's not autism, it's naught, zero autism. So nautism, I guess, can be applied to sort of people who are using the autism label who are like minimally to absolutely zero impaired, so hence nautism. Yeah, I just like it, so I just thought I'd borrow it, but I thought it was important just to reference Bipolar Courage because she's the one who has been using it. And it's kind of her idea, really. But yeah, I'm going to start using it myself because I like it. Hashtag nautism. And also hashtag neurosnobs, that's the other one, to describe some people in the NDM. Not all of them, it's like the hardcore fanatics, really. There are some kind of very level-headed, reasonable people in the NDM who I might disagree with them on certain points, but they can kind of like understand that autism is a serious condition as well, sort of thing. But it's like this minority of sort of fanatical types who just cannot seem to understand that autism is an impairment and cannot seem to understand that autism is a serious thing. Like, they just want to water it down and turn it into an identity and stuff. And you'll even have people like saying things like, I'm proud to be autistic. It's like, how can you actually be proud to be autistic? Like, to be proud of something, you have to have earned it. I'm proud I made this scarf. I'm really proud of my scarf. I'm not proud of being autistic, because that's something, I haven't worked to be autistic, you know what I mean? It's like, that wouldn't make sense. That'd be like saying, I'm proud to have the colour of my hair, or I don't know, any other part of myself. That wouldn't actually make sense. You can only be proud of something that you've achieved. You could be vicariously proud of other people, like parents might be proud of their children. That's like vicarious pride. Like, say if their child has done something, has achieved something great, their parents might feel a sense of pride, not vicariously, like through their children, because obviously the real pride is obviously belongs to their child, but parents can feel vicarious pride for their children. But pride always has to be based around some achievement. you can feel vicariously proud. Like, people can feel vicariously proud over the achievements of a particular group that they kind of affiliate with or identify with. You know, so you can feel proud of, like, say, people fighting against discrimination. That's like a form of vicarious pride. But pride always has to be associated with something you've achieved. You can't be proud of something that you're born as, because that's a facticity. That's just a given in your life. That's not something you've achieved. So I just don't understand this kind of whole pride stuff. I don't get it. Like, how can you be proud to be autistic? Aside from the fact, of course, that there's nothing really great about being autistic. I mean, you know, there are worse conditions to have. I accept the fact I'm autistic. I'm fully accepting of the fact I can't change the fact I'm autistic. It's just who I am. You know, there are worse conditions. You know, I accept my lot in life. It's what it is. You know, you have to accept your lot in life. There are certain redeeming features of autism, I guess, like special interests and strong, intense passions, which don't, they don't take away the negatives, they don't detract from the negatives in any way. I still rather I wasn't autistic, but autism does have some redeeming features that make autism easier to live with, and I'm thankful I at least have those redeeming features, because some autistics don't even have those redeeming features, but I am lucky that I at least do have those redeeming features, which are positive relative to the other autism aspects, but still don't take away from the fact that I still rather not be autistic. But obviously I am autistic, and I accept that I'm autistic. Just because I'd rather not be autistic doesn't mean I don't accept the fact I am autistic, because I do accept I'm autistic, so there's nothing I can do about it. It would be absolutely a fool's errand not to accept it. You know, of course it's part of my identity, just as being female is part of my identity. Many aspects of my identity. Identity isn't one thing, it's multi-layered, but I'm not proud to be autistic. Why would I be proud to be autistic? That doesn't make sense. It really does not make sense. So yeah, it's that part of the NDM which I just cannot really, just do not get. And like I was saying in my previous video, these really, really able people who manage to, like I say, we have to be careful, because obviously, like, you may well, what I mean is like, how can I put it? It's gone from my head. What I'm trying to say is that I'm talking about the creme de la creme, the people who raise family, have a really successful career, you know, have never needed to rely on state support, are not really properly disabled, like it's more for them, like they can get by basically, they've never had to rely on benefits, like obviously I know like you can be working on benefits, I'm saying like literally never relied on benefits, no benefits at all, like they've never needed to be on benefits, okay? They are not disabled really in that sense of the word, they've never known what it's like to basically be reliant on state support for your very survival, they've never experienced that, they don't know what that's like. They're pretty comfortable, they can forge a life for themselves, basically on their own 2 feet, they can have relationships, they can raise a family, they can have really highly successful careers. I mean, I'm not talking about just working down at Tesco or something like that, we're talking about proper careers, like really good careers, you know, that earn them a good wage, and some of these people might show autistic-like features. Some of them might be a bit socially awkward. They might find it difficult going out to social events. They might be a little bit more anxious than usual. They might need routine. They might be a bit more black and white than usual. They might stim a little bit. They might need routines. And they might have an unconventional communication style. Are they autistic? Now that's the question. Some people would say, yeah, because they have those features. I would say no. The reason I say no is because they are not clinically significantly impaired. That's actually a really important part of the criteria which I feel is being lost and watered down because of the neurodiversity movement. It's not good enough just to, that's why I said earlier that it's not a tick box exercise, because it's not good enough just to meet parts of the criteria, because actually a large chunk of the population will actually meet quite a lot of the autism criteria. A large chunk of the population, a lot of introverts will, in fact. A lot of introverts find eye contact difficult, like routine, can be a little bit black and white, might be a bit socially awkward. That's a kind of normal part of human variation. That is why the clinically significant impairment part of the criteria is there. It's to help clinicians understand that just because the person in front of them has all of these features, in order to make the diagnosis, in order to say this person actually has autism, as opposed to just being a bit socially quirky and a little bit introverted or whatever. Obviously you could be autistic and be extroverted, by the way, but that's a different issue, I won't go into that. But basically, it's only autism when it's clinically significantly impairing. Now the question is, what is clinically significantly impairing? And that is a philosophical question that is open to interpretation. And because there's no blood test for autism, there's no brain scans, this very much does rely on the individual clinician, and there's a great deal of variety in how this is interpreted. Some clinicians are very conservative in their approach, other clinicians are a lot more liberal. Ideally you need somewhere in the middle, because you don't want a clinician who's so kind of like narrow in their approach that they're excluding a lot of genuinely autistic people just because they happen to be in a relationship, or just because they happen to, you know, be able to function pretty well in some parts of their life. We don't want that, because that'll take us right back to the dark ages where like loads of people didn't get the support they needed. We don't want to go there. But we also don't want a clinician who's so liberal in their approach that they're diagnosing people who just aren't clinically significantly impaired at all. There does need to be a break. And like I say, I guess this is quite difficult for clinicians. It can be very difficult to know. And it really does come down to their own clinical judgment, how clinically significantly impaired this person is. But bearing in mind that autism is a social impairment, the key impairment does need to be in the social arena. So it is, perfectly possible that an autistic might forge a good career for themselves if, say, it meets their special interest, for example. It's perfectly possible, so you might have an autistic with a pretty good career, I don't know, stationed in some university somewhere because it happens to be their special interest. That's possible, and they could still be legitimately autistic with a clinically significant impairment. They can't function outside of that environment. They maybe are quite dependent on their family or whatever, and there are other factors going on. That's up to the clinician's judgment. But if that person at the same time is managing to raise a family, is managing to, you know, have relate normally in inverted commas, at least to the extent that they can raise a family and have enough social instinct to get married and all of that. I'm not saying you can't get married to be autistic, I'm just saying you have to look at the whole picture. Like I said, someone might be able to get married to be autistic because they've had a hell of a lot of support from their parents to get there. Again, the whole picture, very important. It's the whole picture. We can't take any one thing and say that means someone isn't clinically significantly impaired, but you have to look at the whole picture. If a person is being able to hold down a really successful job and raise a family and have a good long-term relationship and never had to rely on state support or anything because they're proper functioning, I would say no, we need to stop there. They're not autistic. Because to say they are actually doesn't make sense, because autism has to be there has to be some sign of disability. Like I said before, someone might be able to hold down a full-time job and be autistic, but there needs to be other signs, other evidences that they're disabled. Like I say, they might be able to do that, but to what extent are they relying on their family? To what extent are, when they get home, they don't have any executive skills left, so they can't cook for themselves because they're so bloody tired after working all day. They can't even cook for themselves because they're too tired. Then their family might have to help them, whatever. So yeah, they're still clinically significantly impaired. They might be able to function really well in that niche, but they might not function very well in other areas. Someone else who's autistic might be in a relationship, maybe they do have kids. So I would say actually having kids and being autistic is actually the exception, not the norm, although you wouldn't know it these days. I think that, to have kids and be autistic, you do have to have quite good social skills to at least be able to raise the kids, but obviously you can still be autistic because you might have other things going on that we don't know about. Again, it's the whole picture, and that takes a judgment. But I would say it stands to reason that more often than not, autistics will never get that far because, I mean, let's face it, it's a social disability. But the ones who can manage to raise kids and have a family and all that stuff, again, you'll need to show that there's evidence that, you know, they need a lot of support to do that. Maybe they have a rocky relationship. Maybe there's a lot of signs in a relationship of friction because of their social issues and so on. There needs to be signs of that. If there isn't, they're not autistic in my mind. I just think that's why it is. But like I said, the diagnosis at the moment is as it is. People are getting diagnosed autistic through the revised criteria. They are genuinely autistic, considering how the criteria is at present. Personally, I think though that we do need to change the terms used so that there is a very clear distinction between people like me and people who can maintain full-time jobs and raise families and all the rest. You might still have difficulties, but are so totally, completely separate to what I have that there needs to be a clean break. Just like there needs to be a clear break between me and someone who can't talk, because obviously I'm way more high-functioning than someone who can't talk and needs 24/7 care. You know, I'm nowhere like that. Again, there needs to be clear breaks. It just helps everyone. Okay, so thank you for watching.